Hello students and family members, welcome to a little bit more detailed version of the video for long division. We talked last time about remembering these family members as the steps to the long division process. A long division is as simple as memorizing these people in this family. We have a dad, a mom, a sister, a brother, and our dog Rover. Dad is division, mom is multiplication, sister is subtraction, brother is bringing down numbers, and Rover is repeating the process or a remainder. Each person represents those steps in the division process. As I just mentioned, Dad, divide, step 1. How many times can one number be divided into another without going over? Step 2, Mom, is multiply. Take your answer, multiply that by the divisor, and place that answer underneath the dividend. That's where your tally chart comes into play and helps. Then whatever those two numbers are inside the dividend brings up sister. Sister tells you to subtract to see if there's anything left over. Brother allows you to bring down any other number that remains inside the division box next to, or that is part of, I should say, the divisor or the dividend. And Rover is our dog, which tells us to repeat the entire process, or it lets us know if we have a remainder. So let's take a look at 947 and divide that by 2 and taking it step by step. So I need to start with Dad, who's going to tell me to divide. He's going to ask himself, how many times can I skip count by 2 and get close to 9? I'm dividing 2 into the first number in the dividend, which is 9 in this case. 2 can go into 9, so in this case, that's where I'm going to start. Think how many 2's will fit inside that 9? How many 2's will go inside the 9? This is where you would create your tally box and skip count by 2 until you get close to the 9. Then you're going to write that number directly above you that you divided into. So the tally numbers, when you do this, you're going to get 4 tally marks, and you place that 4 directly above the 9 because that's the number that you were dividing into. So as I mentioned, 2 goes into 9 4 times. That would be my tally number. Now that I've divided, I need to take step 2, which is Mom. Mom tells me to multiply. Now, if you've already done your tally box and you wrote down that you had 8 when you multiplied 2 by 4, you really wouldn't have to do much work. However, if you're looking at the problem like this and wondering where I got 8 from, that's by multiplying the divisor, the number 2, by this first answer in the quotient, 4. So I multiply the numbers on the outside, 2 times 4, which gives me 8, and I place that 8 inside the dividend underneath the 9. So I'm writing that answer directly underneath the 9, or the number that you just divided into. There's my 8. Step 3 is sister. Sister tells me to subtract, and I only subtract the number in the dividend that I just placed underneath as well. So I'm drawing a line under the 8, and then I am writing a subtraction sign next to the 8, so I remember 9 minus 8 is the next step in the process. So as I subtract 8 from 9, I'm going to get my answer, which is 1, and I place it directly below that category in this division problem. That leads me to step 4. In long division, step 4 is B or brother. Brother represents bringing down the very next number inside the division box or the dividend, which in this case is 4. So I'm going to go to the next number in the dividend to the right of the 9, and I'm going to take that 4 and drop it down right next to the number 1. I'm dropping that 4 down next to the number 1 to create a brand new number, which is 14. I'm not worried about the 7 just yet. Now that I've brought down the number, I'm ready for step 5, which is our puppy or dog named Rover. Rover tells me to repeat the entire process if I have a number that I can divide into by 2, which I can, or remainder. Well, 14 is too big and can still be divided by 2, so I do not have a remainder just yet. So I'm going to repeat. Rover tells me to repeat or remainder. This is where you decide whether you repeat the 5 steps of the division process again, or if you have a remainder. If you can divide into your new number, which is 14, or if you have numbers in the dividend that you have not brought down, you repeat the 5 steps of division again. So let's repeat them again. Step 1 in long division tells me to divide. Dad tells me I'm going to divide. How many times can 2 go into this new number, 14? 2 can go into 14 again. This is where my tally box steps up. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then 14 would give me 7 tally marks. I take that 7 or the 7 tally marks and I place it directly above the number that I just divided into, or the 14, which is in my quotient, and I'm now set for the next step in the process, which is Mom. Mom tells me to multiply. I multiply that second number that I just wrote in my quotient, 7, by the divisor 2. Where did I get that? It's because I'm multiplying. Mom tells me to multiply. Multiply your divisor 2 with your new number in the quotient, which was 7. That gets me 14. Some students are able to bypass this step if they use the tally box correctly. They would have seen 7 tallies, but they would have already immediately written the 14 underneath the number 14, because that's what they got when they quickly did the tally boxes and skip counted by 2 up to the number 14. Now that we're done with multiplication, sister tells me to subtract. The 2 numbers I'm subtracting are both inside the dividend. It's 14 minus 14. After I draw my subtraction symbol, I'm going to get 0. However, I'm not done just yet, because sister is just a 3rd step in the process, and the 4th step is my brother. My brother tells me to bring down. I've got 1 number left. Here in my dividend, it's 7. I can put an arrow, or I can just drop this 7 down right next to the 0 and create a brand new number. In my dividend, I now have 7. Once I bring that 7 down, I'm ready for the 5th and final step. Once again, that 5th and final step is our puppy or dog named Rover. Rover tells me to repeat the process, or do I have a remainder? How will I know? I will see if 2 can be divided equally, or at least close to 7 without going over, or if there's just a little bit of a remainder. In this case, I can repeat the steps of the process again. I divide. How many times can 2 go into 7? I again create that tally box and I skip count by 2 until I get close to 7, but not over 7. 2, 4, 6, then I stop. So 2 can go into 7, or 2 can be divided into 7 3 times. So I take that 3. Where did I get the 3 from? That's my tally marks. And I place that 3 on top of the 7 because I just divided into the 7. That 3 goes up there, and I'm ready for step 2. Step 2 is my mom. She tells me to multiply. What numbers am I multiplying? The number in my quotient, my new number in the quotient, 3, and my divisor, 2. So again, I multiply the divisor 2 by your new number in the quotient, which is 3, and 2 times 3 will get me 6. I place 6, which again could have already been placed there if you're using the tally mark strategy, directly underneath the 7. If I'm skip counting by 2 to get close to 7, I get my quotient 3. 2, 4, 6 is when I multiply. Gets me my answer down here. I'm ready for my sister step. Sister tells me to subtract. 7 minus 6 is coming after I draw the number underneath the 6 and I place my subtraction sign. And when I subtract 7 minus 6, I'm going to get my answer, which is 1. Final step, once again, Ms. Brother, there's nothing left to bring down in this problem. So I look at the dividend, and there are no more numbers to bring down. So I can skip to the 5th and final step, which is Rover. Rover tells me repeat or remainder. Now I ask my sense again, can 2 go into 1? And since there are no more numbers to bring down, and 2 will not be divided equally into 1 or even close to it, I can't repeat the steps of division anymore. So this 1 is actually my remainder. That number left over becomes the remainder, and I write it back on top of the division box as my remainder. It seems like a long, drawn-out process, but when you do it, you have a whole family that you can celebrate with. You may have Dad, who tells you to divide, reminding me that you did it. Or it could be your mom telling you that you're so smart for multiplying each time. Your sister may say you're awesome because she told you to subtract and you followed those rules. Or your brother, who had you bring down all of these numbers, would call you a cool dude. And your dog Rover may just bark at you because he's happy that you repeated a couple of times and then eventually came up with a remainder. But don't take my word for it. Listen to them. Dad, you divided. He says, Mom is happy that you multiplied. She tells you that your sister, who told you to subtract and you did it correctly, reminds you that you. And your brother, who told you to bring down these numbers and continue the process, knows you as a. And finally, your dog at home told you to repeat or get a remainder, and he has a celebration bark for you. So, I hope taking these steps in the long division process will help you as you divide large numbers this year in school. Thanks for stopping by. We'll talk to you soon.